California can be kind of a weird place sometimes. I'm out here in the forest. I turn a corner on one of these trails and it looks like they're having some sort of party. There's some little teddy bears. They're dancing and playing bongos, and then there's a kid, looks like he's barbecuing his dad. I look over, there's like some translucent guys, blue translucent guys. It's wild. But I'm here at the Armstrong National or State Redwood Reserve. We're gonna take a look around and show you some of the natural beauty of California. Hope you'll enjoy it. So, being a Texan, I may have a little bit different relationship with geography than others. When I look at a map and see a 2-hour drive, that means nothing to me. I go 2 hours for dinner sometimes. So basing myself in Sacramento, I was like, can I see a redwood tree? 2-hour drive, and you can see a redwood tree from Sacramento. You can see lots of them. This is Armstrong Redwood State Natural Reserve. I think the town closest to it is Guerneville, and it's a lovely park. I would recommend, especially in the summertime, getting here kind of early, which is no problem for me because I've kept my body on Central Time. I'm 2 hours ahead of everybody. But the parking lot filled up kind of quick. The visitor center is supposed to open around 10, but it actually opened a little earlier, and parking lot was already pretty filled with lots of, summertime visitors, families, people coming from all over the country. I took a guided tour. There are people from Ohio, from Washington, D.C., from Arizona, from Chicago, and I represented the Lone Star State during that tour. A little bit of the history of this area. So the Native Americans in this part of California stretched from the coast to this sort of area, the Kashaya-Pomo people, and they would sustain themselves off of everything that the forest offered to them. Then around 1812, the Russians started to set up a fort near here, and that kind of brought a lot of the European settlement to this area, either directly or indirectly from Spanish trying to push the Russians out. Once California entered the United States, Colonel Armstrong, who I believe fought for the Union in the Civil War, he gets involved in the logging industry after the war, and so he sets up here. And I mean, redwoods, old growth redwoods, that's prime lumber right there. That is what built San Francisco, just cutting down thousands of year-old redwoods and making boards out of them to make into saloons and banks and all of that stuff, and furniture and everything. And it's kind of interesting. The way, of course, it goes into my head is only Nixon can go to China. Only a logger could save the redwoods. So he had made so much money off of this, but realized the natural beauty of the redwood trees. And so set aside some of his acreage to be a redwood preserve. And it was through the work of him and his daughter and his wife, Lizzie, who really set up this area to protect this area. This kind of coastal redwood is only available naturally occurring from Central California to just north of the Oregon border. That's it. So to have this as being one of the pieces that people can come and see is really special, and it's a wonderful summer trip. It is very cool. They say most of the time it stays cool here throughout the summer. And the redwoods provide lots of shade. It's very foggy in the morning, which the redwoods are able to soak up that moisture from the fog to sustain themselves during the dry periods. It's really, I mean, I got what I wanted. I wanted to see redwood trees. I'm seeing redwood trees. It's truly a remarkable place to come and see and experience for yourself. So clearly, I mean, coming out here, one of my major thoughts is indoor. Return of the Jedi. This is not where this was filmed. That was in the actual redwood forests way north of here, but it looks like it. You know, when George Lucas made Return of the Jedi, he said that it was an allegory, that it was meant to represent the Vietnam War, that the Empire was America, and that the Ewoks were the Viet Cong. And I think that that's kind of insulting to both the Viet Cong and Ewoks. Like, to go around and say that this one person, that this people's struggle for independence after throwing off the Japanese, the French, and then American intervention is the same as a bunch of teddy bears. I don't know. That seems doesn't seem quite right. And then you think of it on the Ewoks' point of view. Okay, so they didn't do anything similar to the Viet Cong. Ewoks aren't communists. They clearly believe in a god. That god just happens to be C-3PO. So I don't know if that all works out, but it made George Lucas a lot of money, so good on him. And it's a good movie, and who doesn't love The Return of the Jedi? It's great, and it's great to be in a setting very similar to indoor. So I would highly recommend, if they're offering a tour, take the tour. Learn so much about the redwood ecology and nature, and like the bark is very spongy, and it absorbs water very well, and protects it from fires, which is why they can live for thousands of years. They also do not have a tap root. Instead, they just have a very big ball and a very wide span of roots. And the roots all connect underneath to each other. And all of the trees are able to communicate with each other through their root systems, which is why they're, if you don't cut them all down at once, they're nearly a renewable resource, because they're just, they have one large tree and then all these other sprouts come up next to them. But if you take down that big tree too early, then they can't survive. It's very hard to plant just one on its own. You kind of have to plant 4 or 5 so that their roots can all kind of intertwine with each other and anchor them into the ground. Behind me is the Parson Jones tree, which is the tallest tree in the park. It has recently been measured at 324 feet. But if you go up to the big national parks, Redwoods, they can be far taller than that. It's about 700 years old. The other tree of significance is the Armstrong tree. And there was a big fire that happened here in 2020, and the firefighters made the line at that tree. That tree is 1,400 years old, and they wanted to make sure that the fire did not touch that tree, and after a lot of fighting, they were able to make sure that that fire did not touch that tree, and it is still here for hopefully many more generations to come. That's not to say that the fire is necessarily an ender of these trees. Lots of these trees have burn scars on them from hundreds of years of wildfires that have come through in the area. A lot of them even have these little caves that are formed at the bottom of the trees, and Carl is the guy who was our tour guide. He said that the pioneers coming through the area would actually keep their livestock in these caves of the trees. Truly amazing to see how life is able to sprout out throughout all of these different things that happen, these fires and storms and all of that. The vines that are growing on the tree are poison oak. That is what happens to poison oak if it just is allowed to grow. It turns into a thick vine, and on the bottom floor, bottom floor is how I'll call it, there's no leaves on it because there's no sunlight. So it's only at the top that you start to get sunlight, and the Indians in this area were immune to poison oak. So they would use the vines to make baskets, and they would cut open the vines and use the sap inside to make tattoos. Lots of interesting facts here at the Armstrong Tree Reserve.
There's one that runs around, the guy runs around in the basketball.
Are we waiting, or are we gonna walk over to the parking lot to see? We will. We were gonna take a picture, or are we gonna go back?
The roar of the Pacific waves proved too much for my little microphone, so I'll have to narrate my final thoughts on California here in post-production. Look at that guy, talking and gesticulating like any of us can hear what he's saying. What a maroon. As I mentioned before, being a Texan changes your relationship to geography. I saw that it was only another 30 minutes to get to the coast from the forest, and decided to get some beach time in. There's always this rivalry between Texas and California. Politically, economically, culturally. Do you like In-N-Out or Whataburger? As someone who was born in California, but got to Texas as soon as I could, I have to say that I really do love them both. I love driving in California. Merging on a Texas highway is a declaration of war. It's always so stressful. Huge Ford trucks riding your 6, even though you're already going 15 over the speed limit. Every time I've driven in the Golden State, it's like an intricate ballet. Priuses and Teslas going the speed limit, using their blinkers, letting you merge. It's a delight. Anyway, California really is the only state that compares with Texas in the sheer diversity of people, cultures, natural resources. We both have deserts, mountains, forests, farmland, and beaches. And no matter what Charles Barkley says, Texas Gulf water isn't always brown. In any case, I always enjoy a trip to my birthland, and I always enjoy coming home to Texas. And isn't that what it's all about? If you have followed along for all these California episodes, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed them and got some new information, maybe a laugh or two. Let me know what your favorite episode was, or where you think I should go next. Now, let's leave Cowboy Chandler here talking to the waves, and we'll wrap this up in just a moment. Now, looking at the magnificent beauty of these trees, the only thing that comes to mind is the only words that can encapsulate this moment are yub nub, e-chop, yub nub. Hits you right in the heart. Well, that wraps up this episode of Chandler's Travels. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. Everything helps us in growing the channel so I can take even more of you along with me on my journeys. Until next time, vaya con Dios.